Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I am trying something a bit different. Now, 2025 for me, my goal is to try new things. That could mean trying a new material or trying a new technique or just making stuff up, combining things that don't go together and seeing what happens. And that's kind of the premise of today's build. I'm not using a new material necessarily, but I am using a different method than what should be intended and seeing how it turns out. I've used Worbla in the past, and while a lot of people may not have access to this thermoplastic material, it is relatively expensive. I happened to get mine, a big sheet of it, on sale at the craft store for like 20 bucks. Sometimes you can find lucky deals out there. And I wanted to try a pottery method. Now, pottery, one of the ancient methods used, like to make the terracotta army, was to use a coiling method, which is taking the material, rolling it up into a snake-like shape, and then just building layer after layer, almost like a 3D printer, and then you smooth out the edges and all that stuff. Well, I want to try that with Worbla. We're going to see how that goes. So today I am using kind of the coil method to build a mask out of Worbla. It's probably going to be heavy. Let's get to building. Typically with the coil method, at least when working with clay, you don't use a support structure. You simply put down a sturdy base layer and then spiral up the structure vertically. I am going to make a mask using thermoplastic instead, so I have the added element of heat and a material consistency that changes relatively quickly from hard to soft to hard again. My thought process is to construct a buck that I can then let the heated Worbla rest on or against as it cools down, allowing me to not sit and burn my hands, as well as keep the layers relatively thin. So getting a general shape that would fit my face cut out of poster board as an outline to then begin filling that gap in with foil and metal. I went ahead and covered the whole buck in foil tape so that it would act as a heat barrier and hopefully keep the Worbla from sticking into the cardboard. Now I'm going to cut out strips of Worbla that I will use for this project. This is a small portion of a remaining roll I had on hand. The roll that I had retailed for about $100, and I believe I got it on clearance at the local craft store for $20. I've been contemplating what to do with this last little bit, and this idea popped in my head. Typically, Worbla is used to sandwich around pre-existing structures like EVA foam to make things more rigid, like a set of armor or a weapon or something along those lines. Worbla is not a normal thermoplastic in that it has sawdust added to the mixture, which is supposed to make it more moldable for artists. I love the smell of it, and it gives me kind of a nostalgic vibe of working in the cabinet shop as a teenager, building wood cabinets for fancy homes. With all my strips cut roughly 1.5 inches, 1 inch, and 1/2 inch wide, I begin the process of heating each strip up, pinching and rolling the material into a snake-like tube, and then coiling the Worbla into a shape to place on my buck. The first couple of pieces needed a little bit of help staying on the buck with some tape, but as the stuff starts to cool and I have more sides that are touching the base, it becomes easier and easier to put together. I tried to be random with my wrapping around the buck and even overlapped areas as I went. I switched between the 3 different sizes to increase the randomness of my layout. I don't know how well this will work in the end, but for just 2 or 3 hours of work here, it's shaped up into a pretty sturdy mask. After I gave it a chance to cool down, I popped off the mask from the buck and began the next step, which I'm making up here as I go. I'm not sure how necessary this is, but I wanted to make sure that all the edges were locked into place with each other and didn't separate anywhere. So I took the last 2 strips of my Worbla, rolled them together, and then heated the inside perimeter of the mask, both heating the base and the strips, to connect them together. You need to heat Worbla to around 194 degrees Fahrenheit or 90 degrees Celsius or 363.15 degrees Kelvin if for some reason that's your temperature measuring method. It is at this point that I think I have successfully made a ramen noodle mask. Yeah. I covered the inside and the outside of the mask in a black spray paint primer. The plan for my paint job could have gone in several different directions. I thought about keeping it brown and adding a boiled egg sculpture along with some Naruto Maki, maybe some chopsticks to give it a ramen vibe. I also thought about playing around with some resin layers to add some interest, but eventually settled on the simplicity with silver rub and buff on the outside and gold on the inside. Dry brushing this on will accentuate the overlapping of the swirls and give the mask some depth. If you've made it this far into the video, video, thanks. Analytics says most people don't make it this far. I really wanted to step outside of my maker comfort zone this year and try new stuff. My views have been down quite a bit recently, and I'm trying to figure out what people are interested in or want to see, so I figured this is as good a time as any to try something new. I have some cool ideas in mind for some builds this year and can't wait to try my hand at some new skills. As one would expect, a mask made completely out of coiled Worbla is not exactly light. I'm not sure how many would want to put on something this heavy and wear it on your face for an extended period of time, and with this rub and buff paint job on the inside of the mask, it might leave some marks on your face, so we'll call this mask a wall hanger or a conversational piece. I didn't put a whole lot of thought into the strapping for this and found a pretty length of red cording and some swirly metal beads that I think are supposed to be used on hair that I'm gonna use as accent bits on the end of the strapping. I hope you enjoyed this dabble into a different concept for a familiar material and maybe learned a thing or two. I know I did. Thanks for watching, and I will shoot it over to the outro after this clip to wrap up this video. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think it turned out okay. It's kind of weird. It's a bit derpy from certain angles. It is what it is. I thought I would give it a go. Wanted to see how it would look. It was something that was kind of rattling around in my mind, and I had to get it out into the physical world. So this is a manifestation of the thought that kind of had in mind. To me, it kind of looks like a pile of worms or maybe some ramen noodles or spaghetti. You could definitely go in and add some details to it to take it in that direction. I just wanted to keep it simple with the paint job, and I think it is relatively that. Now, I don't know that I'm extremely happy with the strapping. I may replace it with something else, but I do like the little beads on there and they kind of tie into the mask itself, so yeah. Maybe you will try and make something like this yourself, or at least pull something out of your brain, put it into the real world and see, maybe it works. Yeah. Maybe you'll get some.
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You give them one of these, tell them, much props. I'm going to go hang this on a wall, or put it in a drawer somewhere. Peace out. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and you want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.